Hi guys, it's me again. Hey, it occurred to me after the last video that I really didn't talk much about the axle and wheel setup on this, which is probably the most important part of the whole thing. So I thought I'd do a little sequel. We'll follow it up and I'll go over what I did on the axle and maybe give you some ideas on other ways you can do it as well. Okay? So the first thing, I told everybody that I took these wheels off of the kayak cart that my boy had bought. And by the way, I apologize for the shaky camera. I'm trying to hold it with one hand. But I really like these wheels. They're all plastic. They seem to be really heavy duty. You know, you see guys with the kayak carts bouncing them over rocks and everything else. So it seemed like it should last quite a while. The odd thing is the axle. So if you look up here, the axle almost looks like a piece of half-inch conduit. I kind of think this might be aluminum, but I'm not sure. But the good thing is, being a tube, it makes it that much more rigid than a rod would be. And so the wheels just slide on there, and then there's a pin on the end right here that comes off. And that's what holds it in place. One of the things I really liked about it was the thought that this is plastic on steel, so there's really no lubricant needed. You should never have to do much upkeep on it. This is open on the end, so it'll drain any water out. Okay, but I said in the video, and let's pan down here. This is the other leg from that table setup I showed you. And I had told you guys that I had drilled in the ends and put a rod through for the axle originally. And I did do that. I did it so I could get that measurement and make sure it would fit in between the pontoons. But when I decided to use these wheels, of course, you know, the rod setup didn't work. So what I had to do is make a cut here and on the other side. I used a T-square to make sure it was a good square cut. And then I took that axle, because it was a little bit longer, what I had to do, I took the axle, cut it to length so that the wheels would fit on here, and then I had to re-drill the end on one side so that that pin would go on. Okay? And then it was a matter of taking a rubber mallet and just tapping it back through. Okay? Once it was on there, and by the way, there are some little spacers, plastic spacers that go on before the wheel. So you have to put those back on first. What that does, keeps the wheel from rubbing against this metal here. And then I took and I drilled a hole through the middle and put a bolt and a nut through it. And that'll keep the axle from moving back and forth. Okay? Now, I'm really glad I did it this way, but you know, that kayak cart cost about $100+. I'm not sure it's worth it to a lot of guys to go out and spend that kind of money just for the wheels. And so there are other options, you know. If you look, you can do a threaded rod, okay, and do like I said, drill through the end here, put a threaded rod through with nuts and washers on each end to hold the wheel in place. Yeah, it's got pluses and minuses. When I did the original measurement with the rod through there, the first thing I noticed is just the fact that I was using a rod made the wheels flex, okay? And I could see if you got a lot of weight on it or something, you could actually bend that rod and then you wouldn't be able to use it again. If you find the right wheel, you can use solid stock, okay? That's a lot stronger, but it is a lot heavier. And like I mentioned in the first video, you'd probably want to find some aluminum. And then what you'd need to do then is put the wheel on and then put what's called a cap nut on the end. It just squeezes over the end here. You tap it on with a hammer. And that would probably work. But the most important thing is your wheels. The whole way you set this thing up is going to depend on what kind of wheels you use. This I got, it's a lawnmower wheel. Okay? You can find them at any hardware store. And like the other wheels, it would be plastic on metal. So you don't have any upkeep, no lubrication needed. You don't have to worry about corrosion or anything else. But these things, you got to kind of shop around because they can be pretty pricey. I went down to our local hardware store, one of the bigger ones, and boy, they run 20, 30 bucks sometimes for these. But it's a good option. It should hold up quite a while. They're built pretty strong, okay? So that's an option. You know, something like this solid stock might be a little too big. You could go a little bit smaller. But like I said, if you go smaller, it's going to flex a little bit more. Now, if you're one of those guys that likes to go cross-country over the rocks and everything else, you can go this route and get a pneumatic tire. Okay? These guys you can get anywhere. You can get them at Harbor Freight, at the hardware stores, anywhere else. This will bounce over any kind of a rock or any ledge, anything else. But they are, again, a little bit heavier. And the problem I see with these is you've got this bearing inside of here that's going to take some upkeep. You're going to have to grease that thing every once in a while. And just be careful you don't get one. See how this guy sticks out a little bit? Make sure it's going to fit in between the pontoons with your axle setup. Okay? But that's a great option for guys that, you know, like to go up and down dirt roads through the rocks and everything else. So that's just some options, okay? I can't say 100% this is the best way to go. I mean, from what I've seen in the past, you know, any project like this can always be improved upon by somebody else. So if any of you guys have a great idea that would work better, please, you know, put a comment on the video and so we can share it with everybody else. And I sure appreciate you guys watching. Hopefully this will help you out a little bit. Okay? Thanks.